The School of Hard Knocks 19 took place at the Century Casino in Calgary. Professional and amateur fighters from across Canada battled it out in the Hard Knocks cage.
To the School of Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks fans, this School of Hard Knocks fight is an amateur bout in the 145-pound division and is brought to you by Veriperm, an industry leader in the engineering, design, and manufacturing of sand control products. And now, let's meet the fighters. Fighting out of Calgary, please welcome Rod Powell.
Rod Powell comes down to the cage out of the Knuckles gym here in Calgary, weighed in at 145 pounds, 32 years old, standing 5'7". He's getting set to make his amateur debut in the Hard Knocks cage.
Well, some people might say that 32 years old is a little too old to be making your MMA debut. But he's been training for 3 years and he feels like he's ready to go. A lot of people want to make sure that they are ready before stepping into the cage, and that's always a good thing. And again, that's what the amateur fights are for.
Yeah, again, like you mentioned, 3 years in the gym prepping for this fight, not wanting to get into the cage until he felt like his skills are ready. You do see some fighters try and push it, both here and in other organizations. They take fights that they're not necessarily ready for, and it ends up costing them. On this end of things, you've got a fighter in Rod Powell who spent those 3 years in the gym with some solid training partners. I mean, Knuckles is home to Keto Allen, who is in our co-main event tonight, so you know that the pedigree is there from the Knuckles gym. They know what they're doing at the training facility, and as a result, spending 3 years under that tutelage has got Rod Powell well prepared to step in the cage.
Well, yeah, and Max Barron is Knuckles' head honcho there, and he focuses on all aspects of mixed martial arts. Now, Rod Powell says he's a wrestler, but Max Barron will be able to balance them out.
And his opponent, please welcome Calgary fighter, BJ Baldonado.
BJ Baldonado out of the Gracie Baja gym coming down. Now, you mentioned Rod Powell at 32, not too old to step into the cage. Well, 31 years old for BJ. Both of these guys waiting to get into the MMA cage. But BJ, no stranger to competition. 34-4-1 in jiu-jitsu matchups in the last 2 years. This guy fights a lot, and he wins tournaments. He placed third in Grapple Fest in Toronto last year, which is a UFC-run tournament, and competition from all over the world comes there. So to finish third is a heck of an achievement for BJ Baldonado as the Gracie Baja fighter makes his way down to the Hard Knocks cage for the first time.
Yeah, this is a guy who is looking to go to the World Jiu-Jitsu Championships in California this summer. So he is serious about his jiu-jitsu. And with Josh Russell at Gracie Baja, he's really going to be able to focus him in. Josh Russell, of course, one of the better practitioners of jiu-jitsu in this country.
Well, and you'll see BJ's 2 kids as soon as he turns around there and gets into the camera shot. As you can see, their faces tattooed on his chest. Again, a serious fighter coming in, a serious jiu-jitsu practitioner. And Rod Powell had better have his ground game in check, because you know that's where BJ Baldonado is going to try and take the fight.
Well, if Rod Powell's going to take him down, he's got to make sure he ends up in side control and not in BJ's guard, because that's not where you want to be.
Jim Flanders, our referee. Baldonado coming out of the red corner in the black trunks. Black and white trunks for Powell out of the blue corner, as we are set to go with our second fight of the night. Both fighters come out to the center of the cage. Looks like Powell trying to take the center of the cage. Quick leg kick there from Baldonado.
And just from the stances and the way these guys have their techniques, I think this is a different breed of amateurs. These are guys who really took their time and made sure that they had good, solid base. Even look at that leg kicking combination by Baldonado. These guys came to play.
Yeah, spinning kick to the midsection that landed on Powell. Baldonado shoots. No surprise there. He's looking for a limb. Powell lands a nice solid shot to the body as he escapes. Baldonado unsuccessful with his first takedown attempt.
Well, it's good stuff by Rod Powell. He was in, and Powell, the thing with wrestlers is they have that ability to be able to know their hits, and well-timed there by Rod Powell.
Powell doing a good job so far of staying away from Baldonado. That wrestling background really seeming to play in as the sprawl and brawl continues to work for him, but Baldonado getting a little closer, throwing him to the ground, willing to take guard if that's what it takes. Powell thought about the armbar, thought better of it, and got away.
Wow, that is a great exchange by Rod Powell, defending the single leg with a whizzer, then being able to counter, working some offense there, and Baldonado just bailing out as, wow, he said he wrestled in high school. That's some high-level high school wrestling.
Again, another kick lands from Powell. He seems to be stalking Baldonado at this point. Baldonado maybe a little gun-shy after 2 takedown attempts went awry.
Yeah, the thing about a stuffed leg attack is it looks bad to the judges. It's great that you're attacking, but to be able to get stuff like that, especially when you are that grappler and you have that pedigree, the judges don't look good. So maybe he's going to try and fix his game plan here. Big looping right hand there by Powell, but blocked nice and easily by BJ.
And Powell seeming to take the majority of the action thus far. Moving forward, Baldonado dancing on the outside, checks the leg kick, does Powell. Again, both fighters much more prepared for this fight than we have seen in our first fight of the night.
Yeah, and if you look at Rod Powell, he's still breathing through his nose. These are big shots these guys are landing.
Big kick and a huge punch to the side of the head. Baldonado spinning, trying to find a limb. Again, jiu-jitsu background kicking in. More punches landing from Powell to the midsection of Baldonado, and Powell, being the better part of valor, gets away from a ground exchange with an obviously strong jiu-jitsu opponent.
Yeah, and of course you can't strike the head of a downed opponent, so Powell's making sure those body kicks or body punches land, and there's another big one there. Those are going to take a toll.
Tried the Superman punch but was unsuccessful. That's the end of round 1. And if you're on the judges' scorecards, round 1 has to go to Rod Powell.
Yeah, Rod Powell dominated the action there. Some very good technique by both these fighters. And again, we talk about that first fight that these two guys getting in. We didn't really get a chance to see Jesse Pearson and his side of it, but these two guys are very solid amateurs from 2 great gyms. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this one plays out.
So far, so good for Rod Powell in his amateur debut. BJ Baldonado getting some advice from his coaches. And if you're BJ Baldonado, you got to make sure that you drive through, I think, for the takedown. Because at the moment, it looks like he gets in, he secures the leg, but then he stops the momentum, Jeremy.
Yeah,
he doesn't take it all the way through to completion.
Yeah, there's an old wrestling adage is once you have the leg, that's only half the battle. The takedown is the rest of the battle. Now, sometimes when you're not a wrestler and you're not used to that, you get in on that leg attack and you're like, yes, I'm in good. I've got a good solid look. I'm in really good position. And that millisecond that you take between congratulating yourselves for a great shot and the finish is enough time for a great wrestler like Rod Powell to be able to counter you. So if BJ's going to get in, again, a great single leg, might look to chest pressure and then switch across to a double leg to be able to take him down. I wouldn't be surprised if BJ tries to pull guard this round.
Round 2 underway here in our second fight of the night as Rod Powell in the black and white trunks, black and blue for BJ Baldonado as he comes out of the red corner, throws the first little feint of the first round. Again, got to be looking for that shot as a kick and a punch are exchanged. Neither one looking to do serious damage there, though.
Yeah, I'm just worried here. You're looking at Rod Powell, and he's tucking his jaw back, which means he's not in a good solid position. If he gets clipped on the chin, that's not very good. You want to keep your mouth closed, which is why when you see fighters near the end with their mouths open trying to get that oxygen, that's a danger time for knockouts.
Powell keeps the front kick working. Baldonado counters on the spin kick, lands the better of the exchange there. Two strikes in and out was BJ Baldonado, found his range and threw a nice little combination and escaped before Rod Powell even knew he was hit.
Yeah, that was a great combination. Nice quick Superman punch. He set it up. He set it up by dropping his hand. Another great shot, but he's got to keep finishing. He's got to get up off his knees, and he's got to circle towards that leg to be able to counter. Great wrestling here by both these guys.
Trying to throw him to the ground was Baldonado. Got a knee for his trouble during the exchange, right to the ribs. And again, Rod Powell stuffs the takedown, and that's got to be awfully disheartening for BJ Baldonado.
Yeah, it takes a lot of effort to shoot in on someone's legs, which is why you don't see it sometimes near the end of a fight. But if you look, Rod Powell is concentrating almost all of his action on the midsection of BJ Baldonado because he knows that when he's on the ground, that's where he's going to be doing his damage. Now, they're right in front of us here in the cage, and it kind of looks like BJ Baldonado trying to work in. Rod Powell doing a great job controlling those arms.
Throwing a couple more shots to the midsection, trying to wall walk his Baldonado, and he may have secured an arm here. A nice flip over. He's got one leg under. Can he pull that arm through for an arm bar, Jeremy? We know the Gracie guys love their arm bars, as he's trying with everything he has to separate the grip here of Rod Powell and find himself an arm bar, as he's got the one arm secured, and now it seems to be straightening out. BJ Baldonado working this submission, trying to find the armbar. Rod Powell doing everything he can to defend, but a good jiu-jitsu move here from Baldonado has found himself with a submission attempt. The arm is straightened out. Rod Powell flipping over, trying to defend. This may not be much longer, trying to throw a leg in there to prevent the submission. Rod Powell doing a good job thus far. Just 10 seconds remaining in the round. BJ Baldonado's going to have to work if this fight's going to be over. He tries to stretch out the arm. Powell doing a good job of fighting it back. And Baldonado unable to secure the submission despite having that arm clear. A very nice display of jiu-jitsu defense from Rod Powell.
Yeah, he did a great job there, and the look of exasperation on BJ Baldonado's face is, finally, I got this guy where I want him. What ended up happening there with Rod Powell putting the leg over, he was able to disrupt being able to, for BJ Baldonado to put his hips in to put that much pressure on. BJ was also trying to work so that the thumb was pointing up. That provides the best angle for the damage on there. And you look in the corner of BJ Baldonado, and Chris Maddock is there, and Chris Maddock has a tendency to pull out those arm bars. I think he's got like 4 or 5 victories by arm bar.
We've almost every fight we've seen from Chris Maddock, I believe every fight we've seen from Chris Maddock here in the Hard Knocks Fighting Championship has ended with an arm bar, and they know that move well at the Gracie Gym. But full credit for Rod Powell, because he did some excellent jiu-jitsu defense. BJ Baldonado must have had 45 to 50 seconds in order to secure that armbar, and Powell doing a good job with defense and may have found himself, now that a significantly closer round, as Baldonado landed some good strikes, had the significant submission attempt, looked to end the fight. That may go in Baldonado's favor when you're looking at the judges' scorecards. So we're certainly looking at a third round that matters as far as looking towards a decision if we don't get a finish here. Cage doors.
Cage closed there.
Cage doors are closed. We are underway. Third and final round between Rod Powell in the black and white trunks, Baldonado in the black and blue, as the jiu-jitsu practitioner goes up against a guy that's been training for 3 years for this. Baldonado immediately pulls guard and pulls Powell in, has him in about a half guard trying to slip in to a full guard is BJ Baldonado. A nice punch landed there from the top on Powell.
Well, he's actually working in a butterfly guard here and being able to push the hips so he can push him off. I think that BJ Baldonado, although comfortable on his back, knows that he can't win this fight on his back unless he gets a good submission, and Powell's going to be locked down here. He's going to keep his elbows to himself so that there's no risk of there being an armbar, and that's exactly what he's doing here. Powell doesn't want any part of the jiu-jitsu, and so he's going to keep it standing.
And you could hear his coaches screaming up, 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 up as soon as he was in that full butterfly guard, because you can just stand up from there. There's nothing to hold you back from getting up.
That's right, and the only danger in getting up quickly, if he's not concentrating on, is if you leave an arm in there, and that's what a jiu-jitsu guy will look for. But Rod Powell, I think, really needs to push the pace if he wants to ensure himself to this victory here.
Big leg kick there from Baldonado. Blood coming now from the nose of Powell, likely a result of that Superman punch in round number 2. As Baldonado continues to circle around, Powell keeping the pace and keeping forward, exchanging kicks back and forth. Some nice punches there landed by Powell. Baldonado, like we mentioned, very quickly goes to the ground so that he can avoid the punch in the head, but Powell ends up in side control. Good for him as he looks towards the end of this third round.
And this is where a wrestler wants to be, and trying for a submission of his own, stepping through for an arm bar. He needs to also work on making sure that thumb is pointing up. He needs to hip in here to get those hands separated. You'll see some violent hipping in very quickly here by Rod Powell as he tries to secure that arm, and he goes to the lever. Very great job by BJ Baldonado with his grip defending this armbar.
Yeah, BJ Baldonado so far successful in defending the armbar, but he's got to know he's got to do a little bit more than that. He's got to get out of this position if he wants a chance to win this fight, as the arm continues to extend a little bit further as the seconds go by. Rod Powell looking to secure himself an armbar, and really, Jeremy, this has got to look good for the judges too as he's in this position.
Yeah, and a little extra strike there might have cost him the position, but he's still holding with it. Really good go here, but again, BJ Baldonado has got to find a way to counter from here if he wants a chance to win this fight.
And just a few seconds remaining in this round. Again, no strikes to the head of a downed opponent, but not that's the end of the fight as we see Rod Powell and BJ Baldonado go the distance. It'll be an interesting look at the judges' scorecards as we look for our first decision of the night, but both of these guys full marks in their amateur debut, had some submission attempts, some nice strikes, both of them with something to build on as we go forward.
Yeah, some great wrestling from both these guys. I don't think BJ Baldonado thought that Rod Powell's wrestling would be this good, because he got in on those early leg attacks and just got stuck. Rod Powell showing some great wrestling defense. I guess that shows that 3 years of training for it and training against some great guys at Knuckles. You look at Keto Allen, trains at Knuckles, and we talked about him. Keto Allen, before he started MMA, was actually a really dominant wrestler in Calgary and the province of Alberta. So, those are some great wrestlers. There's some more great wrestlers there at Knuckles, and it really shows.
Still waiting on the judge's official decision. Of course, a little more math to be done than when there's a knockout on the night. It's not just a matter of what time the fight stopped, but how each judge saw it. And again, very close rounds in the second or third. This one could end up going either way, but again, both these fighters doing an excellent job in their amateur debut, putting on a show for the fans. BJ Baldonado and Rod Powell await the decision from the judges, which should be arriving shortly. Again, a very effective performance from Rod Powell. Did a lot of sprawl and brawl, which is what he said he wanted to do against a fighter of this caliber and the jiu-jitsu that his opponent had.
Yeah, Rod Powell did a great job, and looks like we have a decision, so we're going to go to Doug Denance in the center of the cage.
Hard Knocks fans, a special thanks goes out to the Calgary Heat Wrestling Society for their help with volunteers this evening, and of course selling those 50-50 tickets. And now, the official decision brought to you by Vera Perm. The winner by unanimous decision, in the blue corner, Rod Powell!
So Rod Powell winning by unanimous decision. Great future for BJ Baldonado going forward. I think he just ran into a really tough opponent, but we're going to go to Ryan, who's in.
Rod, I'll get you in the center of the cage here. A tough fight, a hard fight, especially in the second round. Really had to fight off that armbar for a good minute.
Yeah, he was gassed, so I thought I'd try some aggressiveness right at the end, and that paid off.
Now, you were a little coy with me last night in the post weigh-in interview. You said, "Oh, I wrestled a little bit in high school." I mean, the wrestling skills you displayed tonight, is that you wrestled a little longer? Is that credit your coaches?
Oh, my coaches for sure. They were helping me tonight, yelling at me. But I mean, high school wrestling, but using it for MMA, it's good fun.
Now you took 3 years training with Knuckles before you got in the cage. We can assume it's not going to be 3 years before we see you again?
Well, I don't know. It took a lot for my wife and kid, and rest a little bit and go from there after I spend some time with family.
All right, I'll let you get back and enjoy the win. Congrats.
Hard Knocks fans, let's hear it one more time for your winner, Rod Powell!
To find out more about Hard Knocks Fighting and upcoming Hard Knocks events, please visit hardknocksfighting.com.
Hard Knocks fans, this School of Hard Knocks Fight is an amateur bout in the 140-pound division and is brought to you by Urban Mobility, offering customers full customer support before, during, and after implementation of wireless solutions, and by Cruise Custom Homes. And now, let's meet the fighters. First, fighting out of Red Deer, please welcome Rick Pfeiffer.
Rick Pfeiffer, the ginger with intent to injure, coming down to the cage, 2-1 out of Arashi in Red Deer, weighing in at 135 pounds, stands at 5'8", and he's making his second appearance in the Hard Knocks cage.
Yeah, you know, I gotta love Rick Pfeiffer here, mainly because I'm a redhead, and I support him in his gingerism. But this, all kidding aside, this is a great fighter here. You know, he's got a coworker gave him that nickname, but you know, he's a great guy and great fighter. He didn't look at any video on his opponent. His opponent is making his amateur debut in 2 weeks over, but you know, he's looking to get back after a loss to Patrick Ward with the armbar.
Well, it's interesting to talking to Rick last night, and he said that he wants to work towards his strength. He says that his striking is still improving, but it's not where he wants it to be yet. So he's going to look to take this fight to the ground, and that may be a good decision based on his opponent, Louis Grover.
And his opponent, fighting out of Calgary, Louis Grover.
So Louis Grover comes to the cage. They call him Sesame Street because of his Grover last name, and he comes to us out of MMA University here in Calgary, weighed in 142 pounds. Now, in full fairness to Rick Pfeiffer, this fight and his opponent changed a week ago, and they had to agree to a new fight weight. They are supposed to be fighting at 140 pounds. Louis Grover did miss that weight, could not make the weight, and Rick Pfeiffer agreed to fight anyway. Pfeiffer's opponent changed a week ago. He was supposed to be fighting 135, had prepped to fight at 135, but ended up taking another opponent and accepting that opponent regardless of the now 7-pound weight advantage for Louis Grover, who again tried to make weight, was unable to do so. And you do find that occasionally in fighters making their debut, the first time they're trying to do a weight cut, the first time they're trying to get to that weight. But Louis Grover, a very effective long-term striker.
Yeah, you know, one thing that Louis Grover comes in, he has been doing Taekwondo
against one another as Louis Grover comes into the cage.
And now for the official Hard Knocks fighter introductions. In the Build 360 blue corner, he weighed in at 139 pounds. Fighting out of Rashito in red here, the Ginger with the intent to injure, Rick Pfeiffer! And in the Two Amigos and Company red corner, he weighed in at 142 pounds. Fighting out of MMA University in Calgary, please welcome Hard Knocks fighter Louis Sesame Street Grover! This bout will be contested under amateur rules, and the referee in charge of the Hard Knocks action is Len Koivisto.
Len Koivisto, our referee. Out of the blue corner in the red, white, and blue trunks is Rick Pfeiffer. In the red corner and the black trunks is Louis Grover. And Jeremy, it'll be interesting to see whether or not Grover tries to stay near or far from his opponent.
Well,
I'm only going to do it once.
Yeah, well, if you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it go. But these guys are brawling at a big takedown here by Pfeiffer, but into a guillotine, an arm-in guillotine. So you look at Pfeiffer sitting back to try and take that pressure off. He's not putting his hips in, is Grover. So I don't know if there's much danger here. Pfeiffer's going to work his way out and try and go to work on the ground.
Pfeiffer does get out, and remember, no strikes to the head of a downed opponent in the amateur rules, which is why you won't see the traditional posture up and look for punches. But Pfeiffer trying to pass guard, unable to do so far. An effective defense on the ground so far from Louis Grover.
Yeah, Louis Grover tying up those hands. Again, it only takes one or two big bombs here from the top and a little bit of rubber guard action going, and it doesn't look like Rick Pfeiffer wants to have anything to do with that.
Rick Pfeiffer immediately takes the fight back to his feet. Grover covering up. Pfeiffer landing strikes up against the cage. Grover covering up. Pfeiffer is unloading, but then Grover lands one of his own, backing Pfeiffer off with a couple of solid shots. And again, slams also out of the picture here in the amateur rules. You saw Pfeiffer go for it, and then he had to back off and just secure the takedown. Finds himself in another arm-in guillotine.
Yeah, the arm-in guillotine isn't as effective, but can do some damage in cutting off the blood supply. Again, you need the blood and the oxygen to go to those muscles, so it tires it out. On the other side, Grover holding on like this, we've seen lots of fighters in history of all MMA burn their arms out trying guillotines. Prime example is the last Hard Knocks here in Calgary with Keto Allen against Advin Omic, using
Matt Krako against Julius Hughes as well on that same card. Both fighters tried to pull guillotine and were unsuccessful, burning themselves out. Rick Pfeiffer again back on top, back landing strikes and doing what he wanted to do again in getting this fight to the ground. But Louis Grover, a very effective defense thus far, although Rick Pfeiffer has now passed into the half guard.
Yeah, he's slowly working. Again, only a 3-minute round, so he's got to get some damage done, and that is a nice elbow to the side there. Grover didn't like that at all. And now a mount position here, which is, you know, good in standard MMA, but he switches to an armbar immediately, and he's tapping. Wow.
Wow, he feinted an illegal throw and then threw the leg over for the armbar. Rick Pfeiffer is successful. He'll move to 3-1. Louis Grover will have to go back to the drawing board after losing his amateur debut, but what a performance from Rick Pfeiffer.
And Rick Pfeiffer even threw in a T-bow in there. He T-bowed in the middle of the cage. I think he's the first fighter to officially T-bow in the middle of the cage, so good for him. Really fast.
A solid attempt there. The official decision is in. We'll go to Doug Denance in the cage.
A special thank you goes out to HSC Integrated, the official ambulance for all the School Hard Knocks Calgary events, for helping to keep us all the Hard Knocks fighters safe in their competitions. And now, the official decision, brought to you by Urban Mobility and Cruise Custom Homes. The winner by armbar at 2 minutes and 25 seconds of the very first round. In the blue corner, the Ginger with the intent to injure, Rick Pfeiffer!
Rick Pfeiffer.
Rick, we'll get you here in the center of the cage. A very effective performance. You said you wanted to take the fight to the ground and work your ground game. You were able to do that tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Went just as planned. I actually got to throw some punches in, which is kind of new for me. Usually goes straight to the ground, so Louis a tough guy. It was a great fight.
So now, under the amateur rules, you're not allowed to strike the head of a downed opponent. That didn't stop you from throwing a half punch to get him to go up and block it so you could grab the armbar.
Oh, there's no half punch to the head. I was aiming for the chest or body. I got pelted with a few of those in my last fight, and I know how bad it hurts, so I figured just work on his body and he'll give up an arm.
So now after the fight, you drop down and you give the crowd a Tebow.
Absolutely. It's what's hot right now, right?
And I assume that 3-1's not enough. We're going to see you back in the Hard Knocks cage?
Oh, yeah. I hope to be back in March as soon as possible. I love fighting for you guys, and I just keep putting on a show for you, and I hope that you have me back.
And one more time for your gym and your sponsors.
Rashido Gym, my roommate, and one of my main training partners, Ryan Mahan, teaches me everything. My corner man tonight, Mike Davis. You watch out for Wolfgang, Ryan Mahan, Advin. They're going to kill it tonight, too.
All right, thank you. Congrats. I'll let you go back and enjoy it.
Your winner, Rick Pfeiffer!
To find out more about Hard Knocks Fighting and upcoming Hard Knocks events, please visit hardknocksfighting.com.
Hard Knocks fans, this school of Hard Knocks Fight is an amateur bout in the 130-pound division and is brought to you by Cuts, Critical Urban Tactical Strategies, Modern Reality-Based Combatives, and the Cuts Cuties. And now, let's meet the fighters. Fighting out of Tumbler Ridge, BC, please welcome Sean Wrestler.
Coming out of Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia, the independent fighter, Sean Wrestler. And don't let the name fool you, Wrestler is a striker.
Yeah, he's not lost on the irony that his last name is Wrestler. Obviously not spelled the same, but he says he likes to stand and bang. And another ironic thing is his opponent in Keegan Oliver actually is a wrestler. So
a very accomplished wrestler across the other side of the cage. So we have a wrestler, and then we have Sean Wrestler, who's coming into the cage looking to keep this one on his feet if he can. And it says that he watched the tape on Keegan Oliver's last fight here in the Hard Knocks Fighting Championship. Feels like he has a good gauge on what he's able to do, and feels like he just needs to keep his distance.
yeah, he's 0-1 as an amateur. Got caught in a rear naked choke in his first fight, and it was actually a really good. He was actually dominating that fight, and ended up just getting caught. And it just happens, of course, in your amateur debut. And he really feels like he can keep the fight standing. That's where he's gonna dominate. That's where he's gonna do.
Well, and he's also the second independent on the card. He says that he's looking at this as almost an audition for a gym. He says that his work schedule before has been able to keep him out of getting into a gym full time. Again, it's not a conscious decision to keep himself out of the cage and out of the gym. It's just been more a location as well as a finances thing.
And his opponent, fighting out of Calgary, Keegan Oliver.
Keegan Oliver comes to us out of Gracie Baja and the Rock FC. He spends his time working at the Rock FC as a wrestler, also now training with a boxing coach. This 22-year-old is looking at this as a career, and he's making all the right moves.
Yeah, he's working on his weaknesses, and a lot of fighters try to work to their strengths and get really good at their strengths. Well, Keegan Oliver, he did a little wrestling in high school, switched to jiu-jitsu because it was a little more his style, and then realized that wrestling is a great complement to jiu-jitsu. Started wrestling with the Rock FC, and then after his last fight, which he won controversially by the view of some, he doesn't think so. He thought that with the 6 takedowns that he had during the fight, that was enough to prove that he again, always trying to work on the thing that he didn't work on the most, and for him, that was his striking.
He says that he's comfortable everywhere, but when I asked him about his striking, he was quick to remind me that 80% of fights go to the ground at some point, and so he expects this fight to go to the ground where he expects to have the advantage, and at the end of the day, again, you want to know, you can't argue with results, regardless of whether or not you argue with the decisions. Keegan Oliver comes into the cage to make his second career amateur fight.
And now, the official fighter introductions. In the Build 360 blue corner, he weighed in at 131 pounds. Fighting independently from Tumbler Ridge, BC, please welcome Hard Knocks fighter, Sean Wrestler. And in the Two Amigos and Company red corner, he weighed in at 128 pounds. Fighting out of Gracie, Baja in Calgary, please welcome Hard Knocks fighter, Keegan Oliver! This bout will be contested under the amateur rules, and the referee in charge of the Hard Knocks action is Len Koivisto.
Sean Wrestler in the blue corner, brown and white trunks, black and brown for Keegan Oliver, who tightens up the stance before he comes to the center of the cage as Len Koivisto gets us underway. Again, the black and brown for Keegan Oliver as he steps across the cage. Both fighters feeling each other out here in the early going.
Yeah, and if you look at Keegan's footwork, it's vastly improved from his last fight. It's a little less square, so it's a little more of a boxing stance compared to the wrestling stance that he came in with. But the one thing that, if you have that benefit, and a great shot by Keegan, but he's got to finish here. Great defense here by Sean Wrestler, getting those legs back first. Keegan switching immediately to a single and taking him down. Like, this is good continuity here.
Initially sprawling out was Sean Wrestler, but Keegan Oliver now finds himself inside control. Had the one arm under, but Wrestler unable to connect the two arms. Throws a big, mean-looking punch into the midsection of Oliver, who now gets him up against the side of the cage. Wrestler doing a good job of wrestling despite his claim that he's not a wrestler, but Oliver, again, keeping control of the fight thus far and ending up in top position now.
Yeah, he's ending up in top position, and Sean Wrestler here is holding on to that guillotine. Again, we talked about burning out the arms. Right now in this position he's in, he's not going to be able to put enough pressure on Keegan Oliver to get him to tap out. He's inside, not inside control. He's in half guard right now, so a little more pressure than inside control. But again, the worry that he's going to burn out his arms for the rest of this fight.
Done a very effective job of keeping Keegan Oliver's head tucked under that arm. Has had it for, since Oliver made the first shot. Nice wall walk there from Wrestler as he gets on top. Now we'll see what he can do in Keegan Oliver's guard. Tries to stand up and get away. Oliver pulls him back down to the ground. Wrestler unable to get up on the side of the cage. And again, guillotine may have been there, but unable to secure it as Oliver continues to do takedown after takedown after takedown. Believed it was his takedowns that won him his last fight. Certainly looking to make it the takedowns that could win him this fight.
Yeah, and he's just putting on a leg attack clinic right now. And for the short time that Wrestler was on top, some great jiu-jitsu with a nice counter there. Sitting up as soon as Wrestler postured up, and that's a staple. Josh Russell was famous for doing that. Anytime somebody would posture up on him, he'd sit right up and get right on top of them. Really showing his gym here. Now a nice little mount, and he's kind of great finding those legs to stay in control.
Keegan Oliver has been in control the majority of this first round and hasn't yet done much from the top, hasn't landed any strikes, although he's starting to throw a couple rabbit punches into the side of Sean Wrestler. But so far, so good for Keegan Oliver, who has dominated. We talk about a $500 award to the fighter with the best cage control tonight. And so far, Keegan Oliver trying to do what he can to get towards that $500.
Yeah, and you hear the clap there from the timekeeper, and Sean Wrestler had a look of exasperation on his face. I've been doing so good, and this guy just keeps taking me down to the ground.
And did a good job of controlling the fight, keep taking it where he wanted to go, and Sean Wrestler did not have much in the way of an answer to Keegan Oliver in that first round.
Well, and the thing about Keegan Oliver that a lot of people don't know is if you notice that he's got a fairly decent scar on his stomach. Keegan, when he was younger, he had some childhood sickness, and he was basically told he wouldn't be an athlete. He wouldn't be this guy who could come in and be dominant and be able to do this. And now this is a guy who's doing combat sports. He's wrestling at a very high level as he works with the Rock FC. He mentioned he's gone to four wrestling tournaments in between his last fight and now. So that level of competition is very important, and it goes a long way. And you can see how calm he is, even when he's facing adversity.
Yeah, Keegan Oliver doing a good job in the first round. Sean Wrestler, though, full marks to him. Did not really find himself in much trouble as far as anything goes on the ground. More of a cage control round for Keegan Oliver, and we'll see what Sean Wrestler's able to do here in the second round, and see if he came up with a game plan in that 90 seconds rest he had to take on Keegan Oliver.
Yeah, and Keegan with another shot in. He first time he came in with proper footwork and shot in a nice stiff jab. This time, exact same footwork, but instead of jabbing, which is what Wrestler countered, he went in and he shot in. This is very, very good technique by Keegan Oliver.
Keegan Oliver proving that wrestling is the best base for an MMA fighter as he works Wrestler over to the cage. And again, it continues to try and work that. Although he gave Wrestler a bit of an out there by taking him over to the cage, he allowed Wrestler to stand up against the cage, and now Keegan Oliver finds himself again trying to secure another leg. He's got the single at the moment, but Wrestler doing a good job of defense here up against the cage.
Yeah, as Keegan Oliver advances in this sport, he's going to have to learn how to get a killer instinct, and he has a little bit of it, so I'm not saying a bad thing about that. But when you look when Sean Wrestler has the advantage, all he does is throw huge bombs. He's trying to end this fight. Keegan's trying to win this fight. And, he's going to have to develop that as he moves on, but that's what amateur fighting is for him to develop that as he goes. But he's got a great solid base, and he's doing a great job in controlling Sean Wrestler.
Again has Wrestler down on the ground. Wrestler trying to spin away, is unable to do so. Has had his arm around Oliver's neck a couple times, but doesn't look like he's ever going to get to secure that guillotine choke. Now looking, almost taking the back was Keegan Oliver. A good spin over by Sean Wrestler, but Oliver now in the full mount, and he's taking damage at this position. Sean Wrestler landing punches from the bottom. Keegan Oliver not doing much in the way of offense. Now starts to land a couple punches of his own.
Yeah, this dominant position is good, but if Wrestler is a busier fighter underneath, that's going to make a difference in the judge's eyes. And again, he's starting to showboat a little bit, which can be dangerous. Sean Wrestler, a very powerful guy, and has that one-punch knockout power. So I would be very good. And that's a nice kick by Keegan right on the leg.
And Keegan shaking off the punch thrown by Wrestler as he's starting to show a little bit of character there in the cage. Again, secures a nice takedown, tries to find himself. The one thing you can say for Sean Wrestler is every time they've gone to the ground, he's done a very good job of controlling Keegan Oliver's head, keeping him from moving where he wanted to be as he just keeps pushing it or holding onto the neck. Again, good defense, but Keegan Oliver's just been too much for Sean Wrestler once this fight's gone to the ground.
Yeah, and all the fight that was in Sean Wrestler in defending the takedowns in the first and the second round was all lost in the third. As soon as Keegan got in and Wrestler felt him in that dominant position, he just gave up and went right to his back. I think that Wrestler might be a little bit tired. Keegan's in a great position here in side control, and hopefully he starts to land some strikes so that he can secure this win.
Keegan Oliver on top of Sean Wrestler at the moment, has one arm controlling his head and keeping him in the position he wants to be in. And Oliver's got to know that if he continues to stay this way throughout the rest of this round, he'll get himself a 30-27. But you'd like to see a finish if you're his coaches. Of course, the fans want to see a finish. So Keegan Oliver's got to keep working here, and his coaches are letting him know it.
Yeah, and Josh Russell working hard. James Haddad also in that corner there, telling him to work the finish. Those are big knees that are landing in the side. big knees, and then you could see the anguish on Sean Wrestler's face.
The referee came over to say something to Keegan Oliver after that second knee as that went into the body of Wrestler, and he is doing a number on Wrestler's midsection, including knees and elbows and punches. Keegan Oliver is working the midsection, and Wrestler is feeling it. You can see it on his face. He's got his eyes closed. He's grimacing with every blow that lands to the midsection. Keegan Oliver doing a very effective ground and pound here in the third round.
Yeah, and knees to the side and knees to the stomach can end fights. It's been proven before. George St. Pierre, Matt Serra, that those end fights. And when he's landing those knees, those are big knees that are landing onto the midsection. Now he's trying to work to the top, and maybe he's going to look for a couple chokes.
Just 10 seconds remains in this fight, third and final round. Keegan Oliver on top like he has been for almost 9 minutes as Sean Wrestler makes it to the end of the fight. Keegan Oliver, though, should be the victor. A very entertaining performance, a good fight from both fighters. Sean Wrestler will drop to 0-2, but it doesn't matter how many you lose as an amateur as long as you win them all once you turn pro, Jeremy.
Yeah, and Wrestler shouldn't be discouraged by this. He just got beat by a wrestler. And, wrestlers in history have been able to take people down and dominate fights. Now, the difference between this fight compared to some other fights is Keegan never laid and prayed. He was always busy on top. He was always trying to transition to something else, and that makes for an exciting fight. And that's the great thing about mixed martial arts is that down component. And you look again, Keegan Oliver advanced his game, made sure that there was no doubt this time. He didn't just take the guy down and lay on top of him. He took him down and tried to advance.
And now for our official decision, brought to you by Cuts. Train with the best. Be prepared for the worst. The winner by unanimous decision in the red corner, Keegan